on Newstalk.
The Newsround on Off the Ball. This is Newstalk.
Good evening, you're welcome along to Tuesday Nights Off the Ball. It's Eoin here with you until 10 o'clock this evening. Coming up tonight, we're going to be speaking to Brian O'Driscoll ahead of Ireland versus Australia. He'll give his considered take as well after the Japan game on Saturday and let us know what sort of changes he expects and wants to see before Saturday night's clash with the Wallabies. We're going to have Rory Gaffney with us on the football show. Shamrock Rovers striker scored twice on Sunday to help the champions complete the double. Brilliant story as well, coming back from injury in 2024 and persuading Stephen Bradley to trust him. All part of the lore for Rory Gaffney, so he'll be on after 9 o'clock. Also between 9 and 10 we'll be speaking to Keith Tracy, who's going to look ahead to Thursday night's clash for the Republic of Ireland against Portugal. Our number is 0879 180 180 if you want to drop us a WhatsApp. Cameron Hill is back. How are you, Cameron?
Hello, and how are you?
Very well. Michael McCarthy is still here. How are you, Mick?
Flying it.
We also have a book interview tonight with Shea Serrano, who is one of my favourite American sports writers. He's written a number of brilliant books down through the years, largely either to do with rap music or basketball. He's written another book about basketball called Expensive Basketball, and it's really, really good. So he's trying to introduce this new concept to how we view basketball in particular, but I think it applies to literally every other sport in the world, where he's kind of railing against the analytics prism through which we watch a lot of sports at the moment, and he's trying to bring it back to how we feel. So he tells this story at the start. It's an imagined story where you watch Ray Allen shoot a three in the NBA, and then you watch Joakim Noah shoot a three in the NBA. Noah, let's say, is a little clumsier than Ray Allen. Allen's more graceful than Noah. He says expensive basketball is on the proviso of you being asked which one of those two things is a more expensive thing. And everybody, no matter what sort of background knowledge they have, will be able to tell you, well, clearly it's Allen. There's something kind of nicer about this. So he's calling that the feeling of sport, the intangible aspect of it all is expensive basketball. So he's trying to bring it back away from how many points, how many assists, and how basketball actually makes you feel.
It's fascinating. I immediately thought there of the 2024 All-Ireland hurling final, as I often do.
Yes,
you know,
this is perfect.
But I did when you explained that to me, I immediately thought of it. And you could say that Tony Kelly scored 1-4 in that game and go and statistically analyse it. It was a 90-minute game for a start. Like, is that great a return? And then you can take away how all 1-4, especially a specific 1-3 of that 1-4, made everybody in the stadium feel. Be they Cork, devastated because his scores meant more than others. From Clare, like, beyond belief for the goal, and especially the point where he hit it over the head of somebody in that kind of, like, I don't think I've ever felt that way before for a score, where I just like was turning around to random people and it's like, what did we just see? And then for the neutral, that excitement and that thrill of how could somebody do this sort of thing in such a big occasion? But in 100 years, there will be a statistical breakdown of who performed best in All-Ireland finals and so on, and Tony Kelly's name won't be anywhere near it.
Yeah, it's true. And maybe that's why it's important that the All-Stars are chosen by people having a discussion in a room as opposed to just looking through the statistics of the game.
They do use a lot of stats.
I'm sure Kelly's stats were very impressive as the year went on, but at least there's... Actually, Shane O'Donnell won Hurler of the Year last year.
Yeah, no, and rightly so. And Kelly was injured for most of the year and probably didn't have a big game outside of the final. But he won Man of the Match for the final and won an All-Star on the back of it. So, yeah, I think we're probably on the right side of history in the way say All-Stars or that sort of thing is picked, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the concept of the book.
Also, I got 5 minutes in the 2024 All-Ireland final there, which was...
the first...
There you go, yeah. What a start.
The first thing I was thinking was absolutely David Clifford. And everybody taking what they want out of this book or this conversation we're going to have later will reflect the team that you support. Because you're not going to feel as much or anywhere near as much about a team that you're not invested in. So it's going to be like Wes Hoolahan would fit this category perfectly.
I was going to say Messi there as well. Like, you know,
absolutely.
I was watching Barcelona last week. I can't remember. It was in the Champions League. Sorry, yeah, it was an amazing game during the Champions League, and I'm trying to feel that way about Yamal, but I'm a lot older, and you know, probably it's sort of different. But I was just thinking about how I just miss Messi. I just was watching Barcelona thinking, I just miss Messi. I just miss turning them on, seeing that they're on and go, great, I have 20 minutes of Messi here before I have to go and do something else. and that's sort of gone. I don't know if anybody else gives me that feeling in world sport.
Are we ever going to get to a point where statistics make us feel good? Do you know what I mean?
Should we?
Like, if you look at like a team and their possession stats or like shots on target and all those sorts of things, which are things we pour over regularly when analysing a game, that like it is by definition cold and calculating and analytical, and we're not meant to actually care about that stuff in the same way that when we see a piece of skill, it captivates the imagination and it's brilliant. Like, as part of my English literature degree, we did a piece on digital humanities, and basically all these old professors and writers being scared of the computer because they felt that using digital tools to analyse literature is basically like unweaving a rainbow, I think was a quote I heard. But like, is there a point where we look at a stat sheet at some point, apart from goals or apart from tries or points or etc., that it will actually fill us with a sense of pride and joy that we managed to, have a 100% scrum record? Or is that just an impossibility, that they're figures and we'll never have any sort of sentimental bond to them?
I certainly won't. I certainly will
not to the figures, but the statistics can lead to, say Ireland were the best choke tackle team in the world there for a long time. I'm sure the statistics didn't matter, though they bore it out. But the feeling you get when the referee calls them all, you'll know that.
And maybe there'll be signposts, and maybe the emotion that you could attach to them is maybe hope. Like, is it a team doesn't win the Premier League, but they have the best defensive record?
What about Arsenal? You're an Arsenal fan that has a very specific. I think there is something emotional in the only team to have ever done something. So the undefeated season in 2004. I think that matters and gives joy to Arsenal fans.
Yes, that is.
Although I don't know if Arsenal fans are capable of joy, but if they were,
certainly not this one. It's a good point.
The one-offs, I think, are probably something
like that is technically a statistic. It's a big zero, and that is definitely something that people will carry around. But I think you're right. I think it's because you've gone to uncharted territories, and that's mainly it. Like, if it was, I don't know, one game defeat, but still the same amount of trophies, it would feel different.
If Haaland was chasing a 50-goal season or something this year in the Premier League, I think people would be. I think we'd be watching the last 5 games thinking, can he get to 50? I think and that matters in basketball, especially in basketball. Numbers like that, or can you get to the, if somebody is like, going for the triple-double record or something like that, it becomes the only thing. It becomes more important in the game. Sometimes baseball as well.
Yeah, I think there's an entire chapter in the book on Russell Westbrook's triple-double season, when he became only the second player in the history of the NBA to average a triple-double over the entirety of the season, and that is definitely a big one. Haaland's an interesting one, because Haaland is kind of a machine, and he's a robot, and he's an alien. They're the words that we tend to use to describe him, and he is almost the embodiment of a statistical freak.
Yeah.
Whereas Salah, for example, even though his stats have been excellent over the last couple of years, is there a case you made that maybe you feel something a little bit more because of Salah's grace and Haaland's more like a laser beam? I think...
No, I think the overall point of the book, that's very well made. I suppose I'm defending the specific thing of, can we ever get excited about statistics? I think we would get into a kind of a giddy, can he do it sense, and it would bring us through April and May if the title race is decided, for example. But I think you're right. I think if Mo Salah does something and looks to the sky and has a tear in his eye, it matters more than
So even if City are out of the title race by then, like, it won't feel like it's happening in a vacuum. That it's like, wow, this is a historic feat, and we're watching possible greatness that we will never see the likes of again. Is that?
I don't know. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I suppose I'm thinking of like what gets us. Is the whole point is that like the intangibles are what gets us excited and giddy. But maybe there are some statistics that we can feel that way.
Buck the trend. Right, we should get into some of the news around here this evening, Cameron, because we have some fresh audio from the Republic of Ireland, which we'll get to in just a moment. But you are starting with the under-17s.
Yes, and the Republic of Ireland under-17s will likely face Canada in the last 32 of the World Cup in Qatar. The boys in green rounded off their group stage campaign with a scoreless draw against Paraguay this afternoon. That point was enough for Colin O'Brien's side to emerge as winners of Group J. So in the breakdown of who they might likely face in the last 32, it seems like, based on the rankings of the runner-up teams in each groups, that Canada is the most likely at the moment. That will be confirmed by FIFA in the next hour or so. Canada finished second in their group on goal difference behind France, so maybe Ireland dodged a bullet there.
Potentially, so we have the Kevin Kilbane derby coming up.
I was going to say the exact same words. There you go.
Right, on to the senior team.
Well, Nathan Collins says he had no doubts that Keith Andrews would be successful as Brentford manager. The Bees have won 4 of their last 6 matches under the former Ireland midfielder, and Collins says he was confident that Andrews would be able to step up and succeed Thomas Frank.
I've known Keith since I was 15 or whatever. I've had him as a coach a long time, so I knew what he was about. I knew what he was like when he was here. I knew he was his set piece coach last season. I had no doubt he'd step into the role and be himself and do what he does best. And he's fit in seamlessly, really. And then obviously losing big players, I think it's normal in football nowadays. I think the work the club done in the background over the summer was unbelievable, and that's from the backroom staff, so credit to them. We come back into pre-season, it just felt like another season. Nothing really changed for us, and we had our goals, we had our what we wanted to achieve, and as a group coming back into pre-season, it just felt like another season.
That's Ireland captain Nathan Collins there. We also heard from new call-up Kevin O'Toole, and he says he's ready to step up for Ireland if required for the World Cup qualifiers against Portugal and Hungary. The New York City FC defender, a surprise inclusion in Hamer Helgrimsson's squad last week, and O'Toole is hoping to fly the flag for the MLS if he sees action over the next 2 fixtures.
I mean, I think I come in trying to represent the league well, and there's been tremendous growth in the league, especially over the last 5 years since I've been involved. Obviously you mentioned Messi being in Miami. We've played against him a handful of times over the last couple of years, and all the quality they have in their team. And my team just advanced into the quarterfinal against after beating Charlotte, and they've got a lot of boys in that team that played a lot of Premier League minutes. Wilfred Zaha's in that team, Ashley Westwood, Harry Toffolo, and so the league is growing at a really fast pace. The quality is increasing tremendously, and I think the league is starting to get some more regard internationally as well, and I hope to spotlight that a little bit.
More on this on the Football Show with Keith Tracy a little later on. Eoin has been in touch to say, I could not care less about statistics, and they have made match analysis really boring. I prefer when Dunphy was highlighting John Hartson's ass and saying that's the problem. No stats. Just cold-faced reality, which is a good point. Keane's been in touch to say when the Warriors finished with the 73-9 record, it was the same night as Kobe's final game. All anyone talked about all year was the Warriors breaking that record, that nobody watched the game or cared about the number because all eyes were on Kobe that night, which is a good juxtaposition. And then Sean has been in touch from Dublin saying, lads, 47% of statistics are made up. Our number is 0879 180 180. We'll be back with the second half of the news round after the cash machine.
The IMRO award-winning sports programme.
Off the Ball. This is News Talk.
You're welcome back to Tuesday night's news round. Where are we heading next, Cameron?
Well, Swansea have today sacked manager Alan Sheahan with the club 18th in the championship. The Athlone native departs after 6 months in the role, having won only 4 out of 15 league matches. The search for his replacement now begins ahead of their next match away to Bristol City on the 22nd of November.
We're going to have Brian O'Driscoll in studio with us within the next 10-15 minutes. What is the latest in the rugby?
Well, Ireland have issued an injury update ahead of their Autumn Nations Series clash with Australia this Saturday. Mac Hansen and Stuart McCloskey took full part in training today, but Gary Ringrose and Josh van der Flier are doubts for the weekend. Now, the line-out was once again an area of concern for Ireland in last weekend's 41-10 win over Japan. According to Rugby Pass, the stats say that 3 of Ireland's 17 throws, to go back to stats, went awry at the Aviva Stadium, with further questions directed at assistant coach Paul O'Connell. But tight head Thomas Clarkson believes the players must take responsibility for their own role in the set-piece misfiring.
Yeah, it was probably why we struggled at the weekend. They were a good attacking team, and I thought we defended quite well, but we were just defending for ages because we just couldn't win our own ball. And it's about individual responsibility. I was at fault for one of them. There was a bit of communication error. That was my fault, but it's just about as a collective making sure that we're better. And it will be better. They're simple fixes. It's just a bit of concentration.
Okay, so we're being told that there's not a massive issue here. You heard it there from Thomas Clarkson. It was Andy Farrell's initial response at the weekend as well. Joe McCarthy's been out doing media today. Not a big deal, he says. So,
if it was just on Saturday and a couple of things went awry, then fine. But this feels like this has been coming for a long time.
Also,
the line-out was such a weapon for Ireland, and they made it look so simple. And I think we're 2 years now that hasn't been the case. Is that fair?
Yeah. 2 years where you can't fully depend on it?
Yeah. Yeah, not shambles the entire time, but just not like clockwork.
Yeah, so sometimes, and look, I know the players and the head coach isn't saying this, but sometimes I feel that because you're trying to deflect what the media narrative is out there, it can sometimes feel that there's like almost a toxic positivity to it. Like if you don't have a good line out, you are not going to be one of the top countries in the world. You're not going to win a World Cup. You're not going to get past the World Cup quarterfinal unless your line out is good. So I hope that beyond the kind of positivity that's out there, there's a realization that this needs to change, like something needs to change. Yeah. This needs to get better. Maybe nothing needs to change. Maybe it is just rustiness or early season, I don't know, fault or something like that. But it definitely needs to improve. Not necessarily quickly. If you're going to lose the next 2 games, but win a World Cup quarter-final in a couple of years, and I'm sure people will be satisfied. We'll take that trade-off.
Take the Six Nations.
But when you think of like it's all the knock-on effects of having a bad line out and how much it affects your overall game. Like the amount of defending Ireland had to do against Japan at the weekend is crazy. Like that takes so much out of you as a team and as a player. And okay, the bench came on and they were far stronger than what Japan had to offer, and that ultimately cleaned up the game. But it was the same against New Zealand. And from a defensive point of view, it puts you under pressure, and it is the set piece where you can actually launch something in terms of getting your attack going. Like scrums just aren't used in that way really at all anymore. They're sort of if the ref tells you to get the ball out, great. Otherwise, you're probably going to get a penalty.
Yeah.
If you think back to that New Zealand quarter final, it was a first phase off a line out for Richie Mo'unga that basically tore Ireland to shreds. Like it can be so effective if you use it well or if you develop it over time, and that's where it's just that the impotence in attack and everything that we've been discussing, apart from the line-out, is as a result of the line-out, I feel.
And I think 2 of Ireland's tries the weekend come from field position that's achieved on the back of a line-out. They weren't strike plays off the back of a line-out or anything. There was probably 8, 9, 10 phases after the line-out, but it was still the fact that they didn't screw up the line-out in those 2 instances made sure that Ireland were in position to score on 2 separate occasions. You've got news from England, Cameron?
Yes, they've named their team for a massive clash with New Zealand this weekend, and head coach Steve Borthwick has stuck with a similar selection policy that served them well in their 25-7 win over the Wallabies a couple of weeks ago. 6 British and Irish Lions have been named on the bench for this weekend's test. Now, England are bidding for a 10th win in a row this weekend, while victory will put New Zealand on course for a clean sweep of wins this November. Sam Underhill starts in the back row against the All Blacks and says it's a challenge he won't be backing down from in his part of the pitch.
Brilliant to be playing against some of the best back row that are out there. You want to be proving yourself and you want to be testing yourself, and it's exciting. They do have an enormous depth of talent and sort of range of abilities in that back row, and so regardless of, I guess, selection, you know you're in for a tough day, but that's kind of what you want.
Let's move on to the basketball then.
Well, Sports Minister Patrick O'Donovan has been asked to clarify the government's position on next week's Ireland versus Israel Eurobasket qualifier. So Irish Sport for Palestine has written to the Minister after Basketball Ireland agreed to fulfil the fixture following discussion with the government department, the players, the coaches and Sport Ireland. In the letter, Basketball Ireland, Sport Ireland and the government are accused of sports washing Israel's genocide. The letter is also signed by 70 TDs and 11 senators and calls on the government to sign and ratify the Convention Against Apartheid in Sport. A spokesperson from the department told Off the Ball earlier today that the government and Sport Ireland have no role in determining or supporting the organisation of such fixtures.
This has snuck up on us. It's something we've been chatting about for a while. I guess we're expecting the same outcome as last year at this point?
I think so.
2023?
I don't see how anything will really change or how the government will force in any way Basketball Ireland to change their decision. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens on the back of the FAI's. We didn't really talk about that yesterday, but the EGM decision to propose to UEFA the banning of Israel from UEFA competitions. Obviously, there's a couple of other countries, including Turkey, that had done it in the past. It's interesting to see whether now they will pile on with Ireland on that and how much of a discussion that becomes. But I think it's going to be UEFA take the lead or else nothing happens in any of the sports.
Yeah, I think that's certainly going to be the case. So as things stand, Ireland choose to take on Israel next week in their Eurobasket qualifier. We've time for one more story, Cameron?
Yeah, we'll finish with the news from Rugby. Sad news today that Michael Lane, the final surviving member of the first Lions tour side to tour after the Second World War, has died at the age of 99. The IRFU have confirmed that Lane passed away in his native Cork City on Sunday. He made 11 appearances for the touring side overall and earned 17 caps for Ireland at wing. He was Ireland's oldest surviving Lion.
Okay, Cameron, thank you very much for that. Michael McCarthy, thank you for being with us. We've got Brian O'Driscoll coming up in studio after the break.
Off the ball.